Hi everyone, Yasas que Carlos Tirsate to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make one of the most famous Greek classic dishes known as Gemista. They're basically stuffed veggies that are slow baked in the oven and just all of the flavors meld together just to create comfort in a bowl or in a plate, however you're going to serve it. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to begin by prepping the vegetables. I have bell peppers here, tomatoes, and this thick part of an onion that I finally chopped for the filling. I'll just use it up anyway because I don't have any more bell peppers or tomatoes. If you have zucchini in the fridge, you can stuff those too. I would not use eggplant for this because you have to pre-cook the eggplant first, otherwise it doesn't taste good. So anyway, slice off the tops and slice deep enough so that way they don't separate like the first one did over here. It's still going to be okay. And then take out all of the seeds, and then you can just place the bell peppers in a baking pan. I'm using a 9 by 13 inch baking pan today. And now we're going to prepare the tomatoes by doing the same thing. Slice off the tops. Now you're going to carefully scoop out the pulp of the tomato with a spoon into a blender. We're going to use this for the sauce. So set that aside. Try not to get most of the tomato out because you want it to have some structure to it. Put that in the baking pan, and I like to sprinkle a little bit of sugar in the tomatoes just to offset that acidity. It's not going to make them sweet at all, but it will make them taste delicious. And I sprinkle some salt in the bell peppers, just a tiny bit. Okay, the vegetables are ready. Now it's time to move on with the tomato pulp. So to the blender, I'm going to add 1 can, a 16-ounce can of diced tomatoes. You can use crushed tomatoes if you'd like. Just blend that all together until everything is nice and smooth so that way we don't waste anything. And we're going to move on to making the filling. So I have an onion that's finely chopped. It's going to go into my pot with a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to cook this until it's soft and golden. Then I'll add some grated garlic. About 4 cloves is good enough. Warm that through until it's nice and fragrant. And then we're going to add 2 pounds of ground beef to this. Break up the beef and cook this over medium-high heat until that pink color is pretty much gone. Season it with some salt and pepper. And then we're going to add the remaining ingredients. So I'll add about 2 cups of that tomato mixture that we blended, and I'll save the rest for later on. A cup of arborio rice is what I'm using. Any rice that's good for risotto will work for this. A longer grain rice will work too. I have made this with basmati rice, but it tends to be a little bit more tender. So you just have to be careful with the cooking time with the basmati rice because it's lighter and it kind of melts sometimes. So I'm using the shorter grain rice because it's traditional. Season with a little bit more salt and pepper for the rice. And I also like to add a little pinch of sugar to offset the acidity of that tomato. Just a little bit is all you need. And then about 1 to 2 cups of water. We're going to bring this to a boil and let this cook just for about 6 or 7 minutes. The rice is not going to fully cook because it's going to fully cook in the vegetables, and that's what you want. You just want it partially cooked. Once you turn the heat off, you'll see that there's still a lot of liquid in there, but it's going to absorb so fast. Take the pot off of the heat. I finally chopped some fresh parsley. I wish I had fresh dill and mint, but I'll use dried instead and it'll work. But the fresh parsley is going to go in. A teaspoon of dried oregano will go in, half a teaspoon of dried mint, and a full teaspoon of dried dill. Mix that all up until everything is incorporated. And now we're just going to fill the veggies. So remove the tops if you've already put the tops on. Fill the veggies all the way up, and just keep in mind that the rice is going to swell up a little bit more while it's baking, so just leave a little bit of room for it to grow in there. Put the tops of the veggies right over the filling, and then I've peeled some golden potatoes here and I cut them into wedges. I'll just stick them in between wherever I find empty spots and spaces. And then if you want to, this is not recommended if you care about it looking really pretty. If you have a lot of leftover filling, then you're going to want to do what I'm doing with a loaf pan next. But if you have just a little bit, you can stuff it in between the nooks and crannies and it'll cook and become so crispy and delicious in the oven. It's just going to look a little bit messy, but it'll be delicious, trust me. So I have some potatoes left over and some meat left over. I usually cook my Gemista in a bigger pan because these taste delicious as leftovers, but these are all the veggies that I had to stuff. This is why I'm going with a smaller pan, and this is why I have leftover filling. I'll just take the leftover potatoes and put them in a little loaf pan, drizzle a little bit of olive oil, season with salt, pepper, and oregano, and put that filling over the top. Cover it with foil and set it aside. This is going to bake alongside the other tray. But we have some of that tomato sauce left over. So what we're going to do with it is pour it in a little bowl, and we're going to add some olive oil to it, a little bit of salt, pepper, and a little pinch of oregano. Whisk that all together and you could pour it over your potatoes and in between the vegetables. I wouldn't put it over the vegetables because this is just better to be like baked over the potatoes to kind of season them. So pour it wherever you can get it. And then I like to take a piece of parchment paper, crumble it up, put it over the veggies, cover the pan tightly then with some foil, and it's going to bake at 400 degrees Fahrenheit on the center rack for an hour. Then take off that foil and raise the temperature to 425 degrees Fahrenheit and let it bake uncovered for another about 45 minutes. The veggies are gonna get this beautiful char on top of them. The potatoes should be fork tender by this time. It's just gonna smell amazing. If your Gemista come out with too much liquid on the bottom, which shouldn't happen because the rice usually absorb it, most of it will get absorbed as it sits and cools anyway. You want this to cool a little bit and then it'll be ready to serve. So there you have it. It is a little bit of work. So anytime we make these, whether it's here or in Greece, we usually make a giant tepsi, which is a pan, probably double the amount of what I made today, just because it basically takes the same amount of time to prepare a big tray than it does a small tray. And it is a little bit of effort, so might as well make a bigger batch. But like I said before, I didn't have enough veggies to stuff. I'm recording videos to put in my cookbook that's coming up that you're going to want to look out for, and have so much going on, so I ran out of veggies because I'm using them for other recipes. But anyway, that's for another day. You can use zucchini for this, you can use onions, but if you want me to teach you how to make just particularly stuffed onions, it's such a delicious recipe with sweet roasted onions, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll get to that really quickly. Like I said before, I would not use eggplant for this because it's a whole different method of stuffing eggplant. You have to definitely cook it first. So I just wouldn't scoop out the pulp of an eggplant and just fill it like that. It won't taste good. But bell peppers and tomatoes are probably the best. In Greece, they stuff zucchini blossoms. They're little flowers, and I wish I could find them here because those are so good too. If you have leftover grape leaves, you can stuff those with the filling as well. It's just a great way to just fill veggies and just get more veggies on your plate. Once it comes out of the oven, you're gonna wanna let it sit just for a little bit. These taste good room temperature. They also taste good cold, but let them just cool down just a little bit so that way that sauce absorbs right into the Gemista. And it's just gonna be delicious. Time for the taste test. I'm gonna make sure I get a potato and lots of that stuffing. So good. Why do I love these recipes even more as an adult? Probably because they take me back to my mother's kitchen as a little girl. They're just so good, so comforting, so healthy. You're getting so many herbs, so many veggies in your diet. So it's a good thing to make every once in a while. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. You can print it out on my website, dimitrasdishes.com. If you want to learn how to make the vegetarian version, that's up there too. There is a version with shrimp too. Let me know if you want to learn how to make that and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.